Wonderful response for this webinar. We've got close to about 160 registrations as of now from countries like Saudi Arabia to Oman to Jordan, UAE, Dubai, Bahrain, the entire cybersecurity professionals who are in charge of identity security, identity governance, cloud security are here. It's been a phenomenal response to the webinar. We make two promises. Promise number one is that we will keep it simple. We will keep it very practical. We have case studies, we have demonstrations, and we will ensure that you leave this presentation with all your questions answered. So it doesn't matter how long we take, we will answer all of your questions, and that's a promise that we will make. Do not worry about making notes during the presentation or taking screenshots, etc. We will be sending you a complete recording of all the things that we are going to do on the webinar. We are going to send you the slide decks. And of course, you can always contact us over email, and we will be happy to answer any of your questions and all of your questions. We have a huge bunch of people who have been presenting, who have worked behind the presentations and who are going to present to you today. We've made sure that we've taken insights from all the customer conversations we've had. Now I will leave the presentation floor open to our business unit head, Hala. Hala, over to you.
Thank you so much, Mukund. Thank you everyone for joining us today. It's our pleasure to have you with us during this webinar. So our webinar today mainly will be focusing on the how you can unify your identity governance and network access to simplify your zero trust strategy. Myself is Hala Sadi. I am the business unit head for cloud security in Paramount. I have been in this actually domain or working with Microsoft for 15 plus years. Worked with licensing before and now with the solutions, mainly security. So with me from Paramount, I have Yanish. Yanish is our security consultant and who has been actually working with us for almost 3 to 4 years. Yanish comes back with a very, very good technical background across all the security stack of Microsoft. Today's focus will be mainly on the Entra Suite. And of course, we have the expert from Microsoft, Ashish Kapila. Ashish has accepted and agreed to be with us today, thankfully. Thank you so much, Ashish, for being with us. Ashish is from the product team of the Microsoft Entra Suite, mainly focusing on the Zero Trust journey. And today also we will be actually taking you through the agenda. We will try to make this as much interactive as possible. We wanted to start talking about what are the trends and how to solve the problems related to your identity and access management. How do Microsoft Entra help? We will take you through the current challenges and how are the solutions for this, and some case studies and a demo will be run by Yanish. And we will leave the floor open for as much as you feel you would like to have questions. Since we have the right team today, they will try to answer as much as possible of the questions. So for you who don't know Paramount, we are one of the leading Microsoft security partners in the region. And we have actually been working with Microsoft for almost 5 years, since Microsoft themselves started their security journey. We believed in their capabilities, we worked with them, and we grew with them. So we have actually 3 team members or 3 teams in our cloud security business unit who are focusing on the 3 focal areas in Microsoft security. We are focusing today on the Entra, Microsoft Entra, which is the identity and access management. And as a partner, we are a MISA partner, a Microsoft Intelligent Security Association member, and we are a verified XDR partner. We have all the advanced specialization when it comes to security. We've done multiple projects across all the countries in GCC. All of them were successful, and we will be sharing with you some of the case studies that we have achieved in the last couple of years. I would like now to leave the floor open to Ashish. Ashish, thank you so much for being with us again. I will leave this with you now.
No, my pleasure. Thank you, Hala, for the introduction, and good day, everyone. I'm Ashish Kapila. I'm one of the technical specialists in Microsoft, and I've been with Microsoft for almost 20 years now, and I'm based out of UK. That's why I'm wearing this jumper. As you can see, it's a very cold morning. And yes, my focus is our newest solution, which is Entra Suite. And that's what we are going to kind of cover today. And this is kind of the newest product in our portfolio, has been missing for some time. And to just kick it off, I just want to kind of discuss how like what the current situation is and what we see in a typical organization. And as we all know, right, with the rise of cloud and the SaaS applications and distributed workloads, it has become much easier for the workforce or our employees to work from anywhere and connect and share and collaborate online. And with moving into the generative AI era, right, we are again reshaping the way we are working. We are using generative AI to help kind of work more productively. But at the same time, this is opening up more access point, more identities, more access, right, which is increasing an organization attack surface. And what are the kind of trends we have seen in last year, right? And this is kind of huge if you look at it. So right now, if you look at it, the typically we are using around 300 billion passwords, which is just a huge number, right, by humans and machines. And we can clearly see that a typical employee has access to more than 1,500 applications, right, within the enterprise. And with that identity being the core of everything, we can see that more and more password attacks, as you can see that we have based on our telemetry, we can see around 7,000 password attacks per second, which is a huge number, right? And that's what we are trying to help our customers with our Entra Suite solution. So what is Entra Suite? Entra Suite is all about making sure that we are able to secure access for your employees. And employees is not just your full-time employees, even your contractors and your guests. And what we have is we have different set of products within the Entra Suite, starting from our Entra Private Access, which you can see as a quick replacement for your VPN solutions. We have Entra Internet Access, which can protect your workforce from the internet threats. And then we also have Entra ID Governance, which is all about making sure that we have an automated way of our lifecycle workflows within the organization, and also to kind of implement a least privileged access within the organization. Entra Suite also includes our Entra ID protection, which is all about monitoring the identities from constant threats across the infrastructure or out in the wild, and taking like or protecting the identities within the organization. And then we also have a new set of technology, which is our Entra Verified ID Premium, which is all about decentralized ID. And this is where you have tools available to check the identities of the user in pretty much real time. And we'll cover that in the slides further. And just on that one, I just want to kind of start a poll just to see like how many identity systems do you have within the organization, right? Because as I was saying, right, there are a lot of tools out there which our customers are using, and just want to see from you or hear from you in terms of how many identity systems your organization use pretty much today. So I'll just give it a 30 seconds for you guys to reply to the poll.
Yeah, so if you, I mean, we would request all the people to answer the poll, because this will help us understand, and probably we'll be able to tweak the presentation a little bit better and concentrate on aspects that are your trouble areas, right? So request all of you to spend that time on answering the polls. And also feel free to ask us questions either in the chat or in the Q&A tab that is there on top.
As you're answering that poll question, I'll move on to our next slide. And as you notice, right, within the Entra Suite, we have capabilities which are around network security. We have capabilities which are around identity governance within the organization. And also we have capabilities which is our decentralized verification method, or Entra ID, verified ID premium. And the reason, like, you must be thinking, right, these are all separate products, and why did we think about bringing this whole thing together? And this is the slide which actually kind of explain, right, why as Microsoft we thought of bundling these different technologies into one suite. And what we see from a typical organization perspective is that a user journey starts with onboarding of a user, right, whether it's a contractor or a full-time employee. Once the user is onboarded, it is all about making sure that the user have access to the right apps which they need, right? So that you can enforce like a least privilege method, which is one of the uh, uh, pillar of the zero trust framework. And once the user is onboarded and have the right access to the right apps to be productive, then it becomes imperative to make sure that when the users are accessing these applications, they're accessing it in a very secure way, right? From a network perspective. And that's where we have our SSC solution, which is our private access and internet access. So starting with onboard user, right? If you think about it, typically the organization, when they onboard a contractor or a full-time employee, there is some kind of verification method which you do to kind of check the identity of the user, right? As an example, you check for their passports or some kind of national ID. And that's where this verified ID premium helps you to streamline that process, right? And this is where the user can take like a selfie on their mobile, and we can check that photo against a national ID or a photo in the tenant, within the tenant, right? There are multiple ways how we can verify that particular identity. Once the user is onboarded, right, making sure they have the right access to the right app, and that's where the Enter ID governance comes into play and gives you an end-to-end automation, right, from life cycle workflows, from giving the tool available where the user can go and request for additional access they may need, or also things like just-in-time access, and very, very important, which is the access recertification, right? So I'll give you my own example. As I said, I've been here with Microsoft for almost 20 years, right? And I've done what, 8 or 9 different roles, and I have collaborated with a lot of teams within Microsoft over these 20 years. And that's where the access recertification becomes really important, because with access recertification, you can go and ask a user whether they need access to an app. So you can run like a campaign. And typically, I get 1 or 2 emails maybe in a month saying, do I still need access? And there are things which I don't even know what I have access to. And this recertification becomes very, very important, because if you think about if you're using or planning to use AI, then AI works in the user context. And if the user has more access than what they need, and if they have access to the AI tooling, then they can get access to the data which they should not have access in the first place. So access recertification as part of the governance is a very key pillar, right, which every organization is looking to move. And that's where the Entra ID governance is giving you all the tool set which you need, from the lifecycle automation, access recertification, automating the right birthright assignment, giving the tooling for the users to have additional access based on their role, right? Those are the kind of capabilities you will find within the Entra ID governance. So once we have the right access, as I was saying, we use Entra ID protection to monitor the identity of the user. If there are any changes within the identity, for example, the user password has been leaked into dark web, right? Our researchers keep kind of looking at the dark web, and if there are any kind of leak in terms of password, just as an example, then identity protection will raise the sign-in risk for that user, which means that the user has to do an MFA or change a password. And this is a continuous process which identity protection is doing. And once the user is trying to access the apps which they have access to, right? These apps can be your on-prem apps, the apps in multi-cloud scenarios, or even your internet and SaaS apps. We can follow the zero trust network access framework, where we can say that the user only have access to the application and not to the network. And this is how the whole thing comes together. And thinking about it, the Entra Suite is giving you a unified governance and security policy across your organization to protect all the resources which you have, right? And that's the whole idea why we kind of think of, or why we thought of bringing the whole thing into one suite. From the Entra Suite perspective, it does give you a lot of different capabilities, but just to keep like zero trust in mind, these are the four pillars which we will kind of cover from the Entra Suite perspective. And these pillars are around unifying the conditional access policies, ensuring the least privilege access using identity governance, and how Entra Suite can improve the user experience and also help organization to reduce their on-premise footprint. And with this, before we kind of go deep into those four pillars, I will just hand over to Yanesh to just kind of share a few case studies for you, where how Entra Suite has kind of helped the customer in that region, right, to follow their zero trust journey. Over to you, Yanesh.
Absolutely. Thanks,
Yeah, yeah.
Ashish.
Before you go to the question, I just an interesting insight from the polls, right? Just wanted to understand you've worked with identity across the world, Ashish, but uh, the poll says that close to 40% of the people have more than five identity systems, and the remaining have less than 5%. Is this the trend that you see across the world, or is Middle East a little special in this aspect? And what are the pros and cons of each aspect? If you can just answer in 30 seconds, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much very common with the customers who I work with, right? They have a lot more tooling, right? We have been very conservative to say more than five, but it's typically like definitely more than 10 or 15, right? Different identity systems, but different network security systems, right? And the problem is that if you think about it, you can have just one identity system to do everything. But when it comes to network security, you may have two or three different tooling, right? And what that means is that you will have gaps within your identity protection, and you will have gaps between the network because you are kind of juggling with different tools. Whereas with the Entra Suite, as I was saying, that you get this unified governance and security policy across your organization for all your employees and contractors. And that's what you kind of get with the Entra Suite. And if you have multiple tooling, I'm pretty sure you know how difficult it is to just transition from one portal or one application to another and things like that. I hope that I answered that question. But yeah,
Yes, sir, you
Yanesh.
did. You did.
Go ahead, Yanesh.
Awesome, awesome. Thanks, Ashish and Mukund, for bringing that insight. Okay. So, before we get into much more details of what it is, how it is, and the other stuff around Entra Suite, we'll talk about a couple of use cases, our own customers, where we have deployed the solutions and we have seen enormous value coming out of it. So, there's a specific Middle Eastern pharma company. They had more than 400 plus applications as part of their environment. So, the IT team was very stressed out that, okay, how to configure, how to provision, how to manage users coming in, users moving between organizations and users leaving the organization. Alongside it, how do we provision and manage permissions across all of these applications? So that was a very, very big trouble. Tracking it, managing it, and having solutions across to do it for you was a very big trouble for that customer. So we came in, we helped them consult and design and have a one single solution to achieve all of those requirements. We helped them utilize some of it along with the Entra Suite licenses, and we were able to reduce a lot of third-party dependencies and also solving their problem altogether. So we first of all, as a parameter, we were able to reduce the hardware cost and the OpEx cost that they were carrying around by about 50%. And the effort that they were putting in was enormously, even more than 100% was reduced because we were able to automate the whole life cycle for them. Could we move on to the next slide, please? So another use case is there's a government free zone company. So they had multiple concerns, security and compliance concerns around who is accessing what. Are we removing access for specific users at a required time or not? Operational IT in concerns and inefficiencies because there were time taken to onboard a user. Even if an HR sent out an email to the IT, they were taking their own time because they had their own set of backlogs to be done. A lot of high admin costs, slow approval mechanisms, which were delaying and impacting their whole organization's productivity. So for that specific organization, we were able to provision a fully automated lifecycle of pre and post onboarding, a mover scenario in case a user moves between one teams to another, or in case they get promoted from one role to another, and also offboarding scenarios, both pre and post offboarding scenarios. We were able to automate the tasks using the workflows that we get with identity governance. The impact, we were able to reduce about 80% manual IT work and eventually reducing the time as well. Hence, there was a 60% faster onboarding, 35% cost reduction in the admin costs that the company was incurring, about 40% lower security risk because the chances and possibilities of human error was also reduced. So let's try to discuss it, what and how the value is added by Entra Suite in terms of the four pillars that we saw in the previous slide. Could you move on to the next slide, please? Okay, so our first slide is unifying conditional access. Let's try
Um,
to
yeah.
understand. Yeah,
Yes, Yanish, I was just wanted to remind everyone who is with us on the call, if you have any question, please feel free to put it in the Q&A or in the chat so that we can have the answers ready for you.
absolutely. So
Yeah,
either
go
one
ahead.
of us or the team that we have with us will be able to answer your queries in the best possible manner. Okay, so we'll talk about conditional access, our very own conditional access solution that has been there with Entra, or as we used to know as your Active Directory. It has been there for quite a long time, but there is a very small section. The compliant network section is something that you would find new. So earlier we were of course able to scope things in terms of access control, management, session controls for our groups, specific roles, applications, device types, and where are they logging in from, the risk associated with their sign-ins and users, and of course the location along with any trusted IPs that we might have. Now with the new controls that we have with conditional access, we can incorporate network as a specific risk scenario. We can scope what do we want to control in terms of third-party apps, in terms of private resources getting accessed. We would be able to control all of it as part of the conditional access options that we get. So as as usual, our conditional access solution can do a continuous access evaluation to make sure that at any point of time, if there is a risk that is being flagged, that is being identified, it is taking the required actions to allow it to require maybe MFA, to require agreeing to a specific component, and blocking the access of a user, or in case I would want to give a controlled sign-in experience so that I am not impacting productivity, but I'm taking enough security measures, such as allowing access to Outlook, but restricting them to download maybe let's say confidential files. So all of that can be done in a very simplified single portal with conditional access. Could we move on to the next slide, please?
You still there, Yanish? Can you see the
Yes, yes, sorry. Yeah, no, I'm there. Thank you. Okay. So we have two components to take care of the network level security. You might be using your current VPNs that you might have yours that you might be using to control your internet traffic. We are able to simplify and bring all of it together in one single plane and helping you achieve the similar set of use cases and above and beyond that as well. So for example, if I have an on-prem resource, let's say my domain controller, I would want to make sure that only if I meet a certain set of criteria, if I meet all the checks that I'm not risky user, I'm not using a risky device, I'm not signing in from a risky location, then only I should be given access to my domain controller. So that is something which is taken care by our zero trust network access solution, in our case, which is named as Microsoft Entra Private Access. On the other hand, to control our, I'm sorry, to on the other hand, to control traffic going outside to my Microsoft applications, to my third-party applications. Third-party applications would be anything, either something that you own or something which is there on the internet. To be able to control all of it based on maybe let's say, of course, risk, of course, the rules that the users are in, and the type of device that they are using. We are able to do it using something known as our identity-centric secure web gateway, or as we call it, our Entra Internet Access Solution. Could you move on to the next slide, please? And for people who might be familiar with Microsoft a little, so identity protection has been our core solution. For example, let's say if there is a password leak that has happened on maybe let's say a lot of page bean sites, a lot of dark websites or deep websites. So in those cases, this would be as a solution can go ahead and find detections and then accordingly mark a risk alongside that user, that for this user there was a high risk identified. Now the user has to go through and reset his or her password to go through again. So all of this is being taken care by identity protection, and it allows us an option to seamlessly integrate with our conditional access policies. So we can choose our user risk and sign-in risk, and also workload identity based risk, and give out different sets of controls, allowing it, blocking it, or taking required actions. Could you move on to the next slide, please? Okay, so a quick question for all of you. Do you have, let's say, a comprehensive access governance mechanism in place? Or do you, you have problems doing it, or you are doing it manually?
Can you please respond to the poll that has popped up on your screen?
We'll give it about 30 odd seconds for you to respond, and we'll try to take insights from it for you to get better, details in the upcoming slides.
Hey, Yanish, here is a question on your favorite topic. The question is, what are the typical challenges that are faced by IT teams in managing access approvals? That's one question. Second is, in that case study that you are mentioning, that you mentioned, right? How fast how fast can be the onboarding process?
Okay, so for example, there are two scenarios. that I would want to give some responsibility still to the IT team so that they can do it on demand. That's one option, which maybe still takes maybe a couple of clicks for it to run through the whole workflow and provision all the resources, provision all the access and the user for me. Or I can have it fully automated based on the integration with my HRMS solution. So as soon as HR creates a user, it would be automatically created in my Entra portal. And maybe we can configure controls that one day before it should be enabled, it should be assigned a license, and so on and so forth. So it reduces the productivity or the impact that it has on IT teams in order to provision all of it by a lot, and it simplifies the experience for them as well.
Yanish, this is an interesting poll result, right? I mean, despite so much of fines and audits, etc., etc., only 24% of the customers are confident that they have a comprehensive access governance in place. Now, what has been, what are some of the top reasons that make the customer not implement compliance to its fullest? Are there implementation challenges? Are there execution challenges? Why is this such an important tick box or a rule not followed?
Okay. So when we say identity governance, it's a very, very complex solution to adopt, first of all, because there are different owners or stakeholders in the organization that you have to work alongside. There's the HR teams, the IT teams, or security teams. There are n number of products coming in together. So it's a very complicated thing to deploy, but it solves a huge chunk of problem. So in case you have multiple solutions, there would be no source of truth for you. You don't know where are your identities is originating from, where are they stored, where are they managed. You would not have visibility on any of it, which will solved by using access governance or identity governance.
Fantastic. There's one
So
question from Mr. Mansoor Ahmad. Mr. Khan wonders what type of license is required for Microsoft Entra Suite. Can you
we'll be
quickly
covering
answer
that.
this?
We'll be covering that. There are multiple options based on your existing license and the different types of solutions that we are presenting. There are multiple options around it. We'll be highlighting that as well. Awesome. I'll hand it over back to Ashish to give you a good walkthrough around identity governance, how we can manage and provision privilege access.
Thank you, Anish. So thanks again. Yeah, so next, moving on to the next pillar, as we were discussing, right? It's all about making sure that the user has least privileged access, but is productive at the same time, right? And how Entra Suite can help with this least privilege access. And this is all about user permissions, right? Because if you think about it, if you are following manual process or semi-automated process to do user permissions, it can be a big mess within the organization, right? You will have different application owners. They will have different approaches to manage the same access right. And you may not have like a single kind of dashboard or single kind of view saying how the permissions are being granted within the organization. And that's where this identity governance comes into play, which can help you to govern access not just to your cloud apps, but also to your on-prem application. And the way it works is we integrate with your HR system as a source of truth, right? And we use the information from your HR system, whether it's a joiner scenario, like a new person joining your organization, or a mover scenario where a person is moving from one role to another within the organization, or a leaver scenario where a user is leaving the organization. Entra ID governance gives you the full lifecycle workflow automation and can help you govern the permissions which you're giving to your users on the applications, and again depending on wherever the application are on-prem or cloud. So this is like a single kind of a solution which can manage the user access permission and also kind of ensure that the user has least privilege access and at the same time is productive, right? And everything from an automated manner. right? And just to give you an example, right? If you think about a user who joined your organization in the marketing team, right? And then as a mover, or they found a new job in the sales org, typically the organization may have a manual process where you log a ticket and some engineer in the background is removing the access from the marketing role and then giving the new access to the sales role. Whereas with the whole identity governance, you can have this in an automated fashion where the user, once they move to the sales role, their marketing access gets revoked, or you have a choice saying that this employee is in a transition, right? They will be managing that marketing role for some time. So you can even have options saying revoke their marketing access after 30 days, right? So there can be multiple scenarios, and we have the tooling available within the governance, which can help you automate all these kind of scenarios for you. Another important part, which I was kind of discussing earlier, that access recertification is very, very important, right? As part of the identity governance, we do provide you machine learning based recommendation when it comes down to access reviews. And what that means, imagine that you have an app owner for Salesforce application within the organization, right? And that Salesforce may have like 1,000 users who have the licenses for it, as an example, right? And you want to run an access recertification and you get the responses back from the user. But on top, we also give you these machine learning driven insight where we kind of tell you that Ashish has access to this Salesforce app, but he's not being using it, or he has been inactive, right, in the organization. So it will say that based on inactivity of not using the app, you should deny access to this Salesforce app, as an example. The second recommendation which we give you is based on group affiliation, which is a very strong way of kind of finding out whether the right user have the right access to the app. And what this group affiliation mean is that we are looking at your organizational structure. And then based on the organizational structure, we will say that Ashish has access to the Salesforce app, but Ashish is not part of your group, right? So there may be a chance that I collaborated with the team and I had that access, but no one revoked my access. And these recommendation makes it very, very easy for the app owners to take an informed decision and also to have a governance in your organization as well. And it's not just about your application, right? You can use governance even for your internet access and also for your private access. You can ensure that you can extend that least privilege access to the web traffic or on-prem apps as well. And this is just giving you an example where imagine that the user in the marketing team automatically gets access to the social media site, right? And that same user, when they move to the sales team, right, their media site access from an internet perspective is revoked in an automated fashion, and they have access to the LinkedIn for or similar kind of websites from an internet access. You can extend that least privilege access to everything, right? Even to the network. And that's very, very key for our Entra Suite solution because it's kind of doing that whole end-to-end. You don't have to think about the network access. You don't have to think about the app level access. You can have that automation in place using the governance, identity governance. And then it's all about the user experience, right? We want to make sure that even if we have least privilege access, even if we are doing micro segmentation from a network perspective, we want to make sure that user is productive, right? That's the key, right? You can have all the security, you can have everything, but if the user is not productive, then you're not achieving anything. So this is where, again, the Entra Suite kind of helps the organization to not just help from a single sign-on to any app, right? But also it helps you to give the user a consistent behavior, right? Imagine a user accessing a file server or an old LOB app when they're on the corporate network. When they go home, they just open their laptop and the same thing works. They don't have to connect to a VPN. They don't have to do anything. They seamlessly access what they need, right? And whether it's an LOB app, it's a file share, whatever, right? And they will have that consistent user experience. And this is helping a lot with our customers because it all depends on whether user is able to do their job or not, right? And that's the key, and that's what you can achieve with Entra Suite. Another part, right, is not just about giving access to the applications to the user, but there can be scenarios where the user may need additional access. For example, I'll just give you an internet access scenario that there is an upload FTP site where your organization uploads some data, right? You do not want to have the access to this internet website all the time, right? But what you can do is you can configure an access package, what we call it, and that access package includes that website to internet, as an example, right? And the user will go and say, I want access to this website, and put in a justification, and they will get an access, or you can have an approver behind it, depending on how you want to do it. And once they have the access, you can even define that they will only have access for 8 hours, as an example, right? And after 8 hours, that access will be revoked. So it's not just that you are assigning the access to the user, but also giving self-service tooling so that the user can go and ask for additional access and have a proper justification behind it. It's very, very important, again, just to be productive. This is the Entra Verified ID Premium, which I was talking about. And this is all about checking the identity of a user in real time, right? For example, that if you have a help desk today and somebody calls your help desk to change their password or request to change their password, right? Right now, I don't know, like organization may have different kind of policies if somebody is trying to change password. But with this Entra Verified ID, imagine that your help desk will ask the user, say, can you please provide me your verified ID check, right? And the user will take their phone, take a selfie. We will take that photo and we will match that photo against their photo in the tenant, right? And then we'll say this is a 95% confidence score, and the help desk will say, okay, now I know that it was Ashish who was calling the help desk because I can see the verified ID check, and I will change the password for them, right? Or think about your sensitive application on-prem, and the user is calling saying, I want access to this application, as an example, or trying to get access through the access package. You can have this authentication method, which is checking the identity of the user in real time, right? Because it's the photo and we are matching that photo against. So that kind of helps you with those sensitive tasks which happen within your organization using the verified ID face check mechanism. So just another poll question quickly. Have you tried the zero trust implementation? And again, zero trust can mean a lot, like it has very different kind of definition for different organization, but would be very interested to understand if you have tried it and if there are any concerns you had when you were giving it a try. Please just post it in a Q&A. Would love to hear your feedback on this one.
Please answer the poll questions. It will
Yes.
help us tweak or spend a little more time on certain aspects of the presentations.
Listen, while you're answering the poll questions, we do have a couple of questions in the chat. Does it replace the function of an on-prem secure web gateway? Can it categorize all internet categories and decrypt the web traffic for unknown app or web? Ashish, you want to take this up?
Yeah. So that all of this is true, right? So you can replace your own, and we will cover that in the slide, like what all technologies you can replace with this secure web gateway or using our zero trust network access. But the short answer is yes, we have web categorization, and we can control the access based on the identities. And again, from a governance perspective, we can automate and enforce the least privilege access for internet access as well as your private resources access. And I'll just move on. Sorry, was there another question, Yanish?
Yes, there's a couple more. We'll take maybe 10-15 seconds to answer them as well. Can this work with non-Microsoft account? Example, working with Gmail accounts? Yes, absolutely possible. Like the way you do it for onboarding non-Microsoft accounts with Gmail, Facebook, or other identity providers, you can go ahead onboard the users, and you'll be able to extend these capabilities. And then for customer CIM, it's not part of today's discussion, but Entra as a solution has an option to provide customer IAM option, CIM option to you as well. I'll share your resources in the chat altogether. Ashish, please
Yeah,
carry on.
and just
Hey, there are a couple of interesting things here. First, let's answer a question from Mr. Majid. When can we replace Entra ID, the PAM, and the web filtering questions? Have I got your question right, or is there some clarifications that you want to ask? That is one question. Can you answer that question, and then we can comment on the polls?
no, we can certainly replace the secure web gateway or the internet access solution, right? PAM as the technology or the framework, right? We have different solution within our Entra capabilities, right? Like PIM and all that, which can help from a PAM perspective. But there are some aspects which we cannot replace, right? Which I understand very centric to Middle East is recording the sessions, right? We don't have, from a Microsoft perspective, a technology. If you're looking to just record the term like the RDP sessions, right? And there can be other tooling, but we have most of the capabilities like PIM, JIT, right? All that which is required, or privileged access workstation and things like that, which actually can replace those requirements which you need from a PAM perspective. We don't have like a PAM solution offering from Microsoft, but different technologies which can help you with the PAM journey. I'm just being conscious of the time, and I'll just move on with the slides. So as we have covered the least privileged access, unifying conditional access, right? The other key important aspect for a lot of customer is how much it can help me save, right? And how much I can modernize my environment. So with that one, right, if you think about it, you have a lot of different technologies or solutions today, which are your secure web gateways, taking care of your internet traffic, your firewalls, your legacy VPNs, your on-prem identity governance solutions, right? MIM or something else, right? Or even the paper-based identity verification. And this all can be replaced using Entra Suite. If you think about it, like private access and internet access can help you replace your secure web gateway solutions, your proxies, your firewalls, your legacy VPNs, and then Entra ID governance can help you replace your on-prem identity governance solution, because our Entra ID governance is not just a cloud only solution. It can help both on-prem and cloud apps, right? And it can provision accounts on-prem or cloud or wherever, right? So it's a hybrid governance solution. So it can easily replace your on-prem identity governance if you're using, and also your paper-based identity verification, where you can use our verified ID premium to kind of replace those paper-based identity verification, which you guys may be using. And this is the slide which talks about the licensing, right? So you, as a customer, the minimum which you need to have Entra Suite is Entra ID P1, right? That's the minimum which you need. And if you have Entra ID P1, then you can buy Entra Suite. And Entra Suite pricing has like, Entra Suite has two options. One is that you can buy the whole bundle so that you have that unified governance and network security policies, which gives you access to private access, internet access, ID governance, ID protection, and ID premium, which is $12 list price per user per month. And if you want like a standalone, saying I only want to do my VPN replacement, so I only need private access, and then you have different options there, right, to have a standalone SKU as well. But if you look at it from a standalone perspective, the whole Entra Suite cost you $22 per user per month. But if you go with the suite, right, then you have that 45% suite discount. And if, for example, you say that I want to use ID governance and I want to use private access, then it makes commercially more sense for you to kind of go with the suite, because ID governance would be $7 and private access would be 5, which is already pretty much the same price as the suite. So this is how it works. It's per user per month on top of P1 or P2 or E5 license, which you may have.
Yes, actually, I just wanted to highlight this point, Ashish, that the pricing which were showed, it's actually, it can differ whether you have a P1, Active Directory P1, or Active Directory P2. So I hope that has actually answered the questions which were raised on the licensing part.
Yeah, and that's the important part, right? So, for
Yeah.
example, the P2 license, if you have like E5 or Azure, sorry, uh, Identity P2 license, then the Entra Suite only costs you $9 per user per month, right? So,
Yes.
yeah, but again, we can always discuss the pricing, right? Because based on your organization, you may have access to certain discounts. So, but these are the list
Yes.
pricing, and that's how the licensing works for our customers.
Yeah, Ashish, I know we are running a little short of time, but then from the poll, only 4% of the people are happy with their zero trust implementation. Probably this needs another webinar some other time on other practical aspects of zero trust, but that's
Yeah,
another
the
story for
biggest
another day.
biggest challenge is that zero trust says that you have to do micro segmentation, right? You have to keep identity in the center. And if you are working in an organization, right, for a like long time or whatever, it becomes very, very difficult to do micro segmentation. Our Entra Suite has capabilities where you can run, for example, private access into a learning mode. And what that learning mode will tell you that Ashish is accessing these 13 different applications, and so is Yanish, right? And then you can create a application segment saying Ashish and Yanis will only have access to these 13 applications. So with Entra Suite, we actually make it easier because we have options where you can run the tooling in a learning mode, and then you can define your micro segmentation. And that does help a lot of customers or big organization or even small organization to have a segmentation in place. Cool. That's all from my side. I'll hand it over to you, Yanish. Is it correct?
Yes, thank you, Ashish. So, okay, we've got, okay, you have planned, you have provisioned, you have, taken the decision to move to Entra Suite. What are the next steps, or what are the first, set of steps that you would need to take in your first 30 days? You would need to, first of all, go ahead, deploy security controls from an identity risk perspective, user risk, sign-in risk. You would need to set up either a self review or a manager review or an admin review based access review for your system accounts, for your critical resources, for your SharePoint sites and team sites. Set up different groups that which teams needs access to what kind of resources, and then enforce traffic with our secure web gateway component. We'll see a couple of examples. For example, the differentiation between marketing and a sales user. You would be able to remove your existing on-prem secure web gateway or governance, or your VPN solutions by adopting to this, and then you would be able to automate the whole life cycle of workflow management. A quick poll question that you all are eligible for a free zero trust assessment. So, you have a couple of responses in terms of when and how you would want to look at it. So please feel free to respond to it so that we can help you in that journey.
Can you pop up the poll? I don't see the poll, by the way.
Yes, it has not come up till now.
Yeah, it's come up now.
So,
So Yanish, just spend about 15 to 20 seconds and telling what aspects would typically get covered in the zero trust assessment. What are the elements that you're going to cover and so on?
absolutely. So as part of the zero trust assessment, we'll be assessing your environment. What kind of products do you use? What kind of solutions do you use? Is there defined segments for your environment? And then how you can map or achieve the missing points and how you can achieve it in a better way using the Entra Suite solutions. We can help you do that level of mapping so that you can plan for a plan for your future, maybe 2 years, 3 years, 5 years ahead in the future.
You can move on to the demo.
Yes, let's quickly
Move on to the
jump.
demo. Keep the poll open, but move on to
Yeah.
the demo if you can.
Yeah. Let's quickly go to the demo. So we have an on-prem HRMS solution. So as soon we have done the integration with that HRMS solution with our Entra solution. So as soon as the user is created, they would be reflecting in our environment.
And
The
just to
user
add,
is created here.
just to add, we can connect to any HR system, right? It doesn't matter what HR system you use. The Entra ID governance can connect to any HR system.
Yes, even if you don't have an HR system, you just use Excel or CSV files, we can create mechanisms to achieve that for you as well. So there's a joiner scenario. You can configure different sets of tasks. For example, enabling the user accounts, adding or giving different permissions to them. In the meantime, if you have any questions or queries, do let us know in the chat or the Q&A section as well, please. So all the tasks or the options that you see can be defined as a workflow item. It works on an API baseline. So for example, you want to integrate your third-party applications. Let's say for every activity, you would want to have a ticket created in ServiceNow so that you can track it. You can do that integration here as well. And there are more than 100 plus, smaller templates, built in as part of your task available for you, which you can directly adopt to as part of your workflow creation. You you can define, for example, now we're doing the post onboarding. After onboarding, what are the different tasks that you would need to give to the user? For example, the user is added to the different sets of groups because of the workflow that we have created, and the license is also assigned for that specific user. We discussed about verified ID. You can use that verified ID to request for permissions in access packages. So we have packages assigned. They can provide a justification, authenticate using the verified ID, and then there would be a small face check done for us to be able to get it authenticated with our face IDs. So we'll be able to, you can have multiple different verified IDs. It's pretty much your Microsoft Authenticator acts like a wallet for your verified IDs. You can have n number of verified IDs added as part of your environment. Yes, Mukund.
Okay, sorry. I was on mute, but Mr. Nizamuddin asks if Entra ID SWG is present inside UAE Azure.
So Entra ID is a service-based solution, so it's globally available with high availability. So it is present in regions with a backup in a different region altogether. In simple words, yes. Correct me if I'm wrong, or if you want to add on to more to it, Ashish, you can do that.
No, I've already replied to Nizam on the
Ah.
Q&A, and I've given
Okay.
that. So yes, the UAE data center has the global secure access service enabled.
Awesome.
And you can
Thank
see
you.
the list of different data centers in there.
Okay. So we have access provisioning option as well. Then there's a mover scenario altogether. So in case a user moves from marketing to sales, we would be able to define workflows, and as soon as the workflow executes, they would be changed in terms of their role, the groups they have, the permissions they have. All of it could be changed. You can see that the current department is marketing for this specific user, and once we execute this specific workflow, it would be changed accordingly. Now the user property or the department here is now sales. The role for that user has changed to sales manager, and other different properties, whatever you add in that workflow, would be automatically changed as well. So in this section, you can see the marketing access that the user had earlier is removed or expired. Now they have been assigned a newer permission, which is part of their active set of components. And they're able to access the Salesforce application as well, which is part of their new assignment. Okay. Move. Okay, there's a similar lever scenario altogether. So for example, as soon as user is set to leave the organization, they would be the workflow would run. We would remove the license, the application access, and whatnot. We would be able to take care. So we have this orange HRMS application, and we would be able to connect it in case that application supports a domain name, a local domain name, or it supports IP associated with it. We would be able to add it and integrate it with our solution, or any other on-prem application that you have which supports any of these. You would be able to integrate it with our private access solution, and the users would be able to seamlessly access it. And you can see you can integrate the PIM capability as well. So we can have just-in-time mechanisms. So till the point the user goes ahead and activates his or her role, they would not be able to access critical resources. For example, you would need to be necessarily part of a privileged group to access your domain controllers on premises. So till you can see they would be blocked as part of conditional access being enforced, that you're able to successfully log in, but you don't have the required permissions to do it. So we can go ahead and PIM activate the role, and then we would be able to access that specific resource. You can see the role is activated for my user. Now, once we try to do the RDP again, you can see that in case you have enforced MFA, you would be able to go through the MFA option, and then you would be authenticated directly, taking into the privileged resource that you have. This is the private access solution that we're discussing right now.
And this was seamless, right? There was no network level access to the RDP. This was seamless.
Correct.
So it is not like that the device has a private IP and can connect to the resource. This is all based on the tunnels which we make to the SSC service. So that's very important, and that's what the Zero Trust Network Access is all about.
Absolutely, absolutely. In day-to-day problems, or yesterday itself in a customer call, we were trying to do an RTP to a critical server, but as their VPN or their internal IP expired, so they were not able to do it because there was no rule present in their environment to allow them that sign. But in this setup, there's no such configurations required. So this is our identity protection dashboard that is there, highlighting all the risk directions, the locations where risk is coming in from. The whole dashboard highlighting how many risks, the type of risk, and whatnot associated with our environment. Now let's take a scenario where the role-based access control is defined. Currently, I'm logged in with a user who needs to do marketing, so they have access to social media sites, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. They would be having access to all of it. And we'll see an experience detail where a user is trying to log in as part of it. as part of a different user group, maybe a sales user. You can see the same user, and once we change, or once we make changes to the groups for to make it go to our sales department instead of marketing, they should not have access to the social media sites. We would be able to restrict it. That's a question. Can PAM access be time bound? Yes, the PIM access can be defined to any duration, 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hour, 4 hour, 8 hour. You can define that duration for the rule to be active. You can see that whenever the user tries to go ahead and open any social media sites, they are being blocked. You can also customize this specific error message to show that the user or the organization has blocked this URL, to let them know that, okay, this is a unallowed site in my environment. You would be able to secure access to different Microsoft products. So for example, if you do not want to allow registration of unsupported domains, or let's say your competitor or any other domains apart from your own domain name, you can do that, and they would not be able to sign in or register using those specific email addresses. And in case you access from a non-compliant network location, it could be your trusted IP address. It could be a different country. It could be a different set of location. You would be able to restrict access to certain set of applications. So with this, we finish off the demonstration. We would be happy to help you in the zero trust assessment, and also any questions or queries that you might have as part of Entra Suite. Hala, I'll hand it over to
Thank you,
Hala for
Yanish.
the final words.
Yes, thank you so much, Yanish. Thank you so much, Ashish. I really hope, guys, that this was useful and you found value out of this webinar, and you've learned more about the Entra Suite and the capabilities and features of the product. Again, we would really like you to connect with us. My email is there. Shiju's email is there. We would really want to connect with you, understand your challenges, and see how we can help you solve it. We are available across all the GCC, Jordan, and other locations. So please feel free to reach out to us, and we will definitely align and have a meeting set to take it forward. Yes, Mukund, you wanted to say something?
Nah, I just wanted to tell people that we have executed about close to 100 plus cloud projects, and we probably understand the Middle East and the nuances of Middle East, the challenges that you face, because probably Middle East is one of the most challenging markets for cybersecurity professionals with multiple compliances and other rules. But we can help you, support you. That's the only thing that I wanted to say. You've all been a
Definitely.
fantastic audience, very participative. There's so many questions that were very interesting. Thanks again.